yeah, if you would just introduce yourself, speak a little bit about Augur and any other pitch you want to slide in there, and then we'll follow up the Q&A if that's all right.
I think the best way to intro people to Augur is to show them this video that we had made in the run-up to our token sale. So I'm posting a link here. If you do have a screen or something, you can show that on. But if you do, it's a much better intro to the project than anything that I'll say.
Okay, if you can hear me, stand by for a second. I'll pop it up. We'll watch the intro. How long is it?
It's like 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, here it goes.
Augur is a prediction market platform that rewards a user for correctly predicting future events. Prediction markets allow users to purchase and sell shares in the outcome of an event. The current market price of a share is an estimate of the probability of an event actually occurring. The prices of each share adds up to $1, so if you buy a share at even odds, it will cost you 50 cents. If you end up being right, you'll receive $1 for that share. These markets rely on a scientific principle known as the wisdom of the crowd, which states that if you ask enough people something, their average answer is usually far more accurate than any expert. This allows us to create one of the most powerful forecasting tools. The problem with previous prediction markets is that they were centralized, allowing them to be easily shut down. Another problem is that with any prediction market, someone has to report what actually happened after the event occurred. In centralized markets, one person does this, which means there can be mistakes or outright manipulation. With Augur, we'll have thousands of users reporting on these outcomes using something called reputation. Using Augur, anyone, anywhere in the world can create a market asking a question about anything. Market makers provide some initial funding for the market and in return receive some trading fees. Anybody can freely buy and sell shares in the outcome of that market. And the current share prices provide the best estimate of that event occurring. Imagine being able to Google questions about things that haven't happened yet and receiving accurate odds of their occurrence. That power, the power to glimpse into the future, is what we believe everyone should have access to.
Okay, all right, so we're back with you. That was a very powerful video. One question right from the get-go. It seems that there's a lot of potential income opportunity as a business.
Wait, now I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There's sounds like a fan or something on in the background.
Oh yeah. Oh, there is a fan on.
We'll get it. We'll get it here. Okay, so before you say anything, I wanted to interrupt and get a question right off. One of the things, it seems like there's income potential here. This is a whole new space. I could have a job being a market maker, or could you even tell me what are just some of the ways that a person like myself get involved in Augur? I don't necessarily want to bet, but I do want to generate revenue. I want to be one of the people that facilitates Augur. What are some options for me?
Well, there's a couple different ways you can get involved. So I guess I don't know your background, so I don't know if you're an engineer or, but if you'd like to get involved as a market maker, you can. So anybody using Augur can create markets on Augur, and the markets can be, they can be about anything. I like to give the example of political markets, just because that's, historically that's been what prediction markets have been popular for. Who's going to win the presidential election, that sort of thing. But really, they can be any conceivable topic. So, not just who's going to win the election, but will there be an earthquake of magnitude 9 or greater in San Francisco this year? Might be interesting. It would be good to know that if you live in San Francisco, or what's the high temperature going to be next month in Boise, or who's going to win the Georgia-Florida game. There's a huge variety of things, and you can make markets for any of those on Augur. What I think is one of the cool things about prediction markets is that they're a very general concept. So any market that doesn't involve like movement of a physical good is really just a specific kind of prediction market, right? So if you think about like if you're buying an option or a future or something like that, really what you're doing is you're predicting the whether or not the company's stock price will be above a certain price on a certain date. And so it's a prediction markets all the way down. And basically anybody who's using Augur can create markets on Augur. So you create a market and you can sort of seed it with a certain amount of initial liquidity. Basically, you provide an initial order book, and you get a portion of the trading fees that pass through your market. So it's sort of like if you set up the market well and you put sufficient liquidity in it and people are actually using it, then you can actually make money through your market.
Okay, so Augur runs on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Could I have a prediction market? Could I make a market and have it use Bitcoin? Can you explain or elaborate a little bit on that aspect?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our goal is actually to have Augur be currency agnostic. Right now it isn't. Right now it actually doesn't use any real cryptocurrency. We are in beta testing right now, and we're actually just using a basically play money. It's Ether, but it's like testnet Ether. And I mean, of course, so Ether is the sort of natural currency of the Ethereum network, but we want to allow people to use basically any crypto token on Augur. And the way that will work is Ethereum has support for using keeping track of other cryptocurrencies natively on Ethereum using something called a subcurrency API. And basically using that, we'll be able to use a variety of different crypto tokens. So one obvious thing that we would like to use is Bitcoin. Someone has already built a piece of software called BTC Relay, and it's basically just it's a side chain connecting Ethereum and Bitcoin. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the idea of a side chain, but basically the very quick explanation is it's like it's a way of connecting two blockchains with a fixed exchange rate. And so, like, I take one Bitcoin and lock it up, I get one Ether. But you're just sort of using, and it's a way of using Bitcoin natively on the Ethereum blockchain without having to actually exchange it for Ether, literally, and deal with a floating exchange rate. I think that's sort of a nice way to think about it. And BTC Relay basically is software that does that. And that is BTC Relay integration will very likely not be part of the initial launch, but it's one of the first things that we want to add after launch because that's something that we've realized is pretty important to people. And the other currency that we think people will be really interested in using is quote unquote stable coins. So coins that are pegged to real world currencies. Because basically one of the issues with placing any kind of like long-term bet on using a crypto is that the crypto's volatility very often will overwhelm whatever gains you hope to make by making the bet. And so I think long-term it'll be important to to not require people to be exposed to that in order to use Augur. And there are a couple different stable coins in development for Ethereum, so we'll natively support those.
So the whole system is in beta right now. What's the release date for the final product, or are you guys close enough to have a date?
So we are very close to having the product sort of done. We are right now we are about to enter security audits, and it's I'm not. It's hard for me to give sort of like a timeline for that because, well, I haven't actually been through a formal security audit process before, so I don't have a real good sense of how long it will take. But what we've always said is that it'll take however long it needs to. I think there was this recent sort of cautionary tale from the DAO debacle, and I think that's well, there's all kinds of lessons that can be drawn from that, but I think one of them is it's like, man, we really want to audit the heck out of this, but before releasing it with real money. And that said, our aim is to have it out before the presidential election. So because we think that people will be interested in using it for that. And in terms of the basic development, it should be done well before then. But it really depends on how the security audits go.
I got a couple of questions. So the first one is like, since it's decentralized, how are you going to like protect against like scammers who tries to run like 100 nodes and manage the voting and everything? So the second one is like, with the recent attack of like the smart contracts, like there's like many loopholes found after like DAO. So how you guys trying to solve all the issues before launching?
So I didn't really get that. It was kind of, you were kind of breaking up during that. The second question was about, was it whether or not we can change the smart contracts and how?
Yeah, Jack, his second question was kind of the security around smart contracts and how does Augur plug in? And the example was the DAO with the recursive split, I guess. I mean, what are you guys looking into to prevent kind of these security issues, or how are you going to address the security issues, or is Augur a completely different platform that will not be susceptible in the same way?
And there was another question too, right? Well, I guess I can go ahead and answer that one. So that I mean, that's a good question, and security is something that's sort of at the front of our minds right now. So we are in some sense on a we're using sort of a different software stack than the people who developed the DAO. So we're using a different programming language. Ethereum, most Ethereum developers now use a language called Solidity, which it's the newer of the programming languages, and it has a lot of sort of nice syntactic features. We use an older sort of lower level language called Serpent, and it the two languages, they ultimately compile to Ethereum virtual machine bytecode, and so in some sense they're compiling to the same thing, but the way that the languages are set up, I think the way Solidity was set up and documented, it made it vulnerable to that particular the recursive this recursive send vulnerability, just because the sort of the standard way that you would call another, like if you wanted to import and then invoke a function from another contract, the standard way of doing it was a way that was that it had this vulnerability, and it happens in Serpent that that's not true. So the platform is different in a sense. We're also using most of our own, Augur has its own. Basically, our entire stack, aside from Ethereum itself, is stuff that we developed in-house. Just because there's a lot of, there are a lot of nice tools available now that just sort of weren't there when we started. So so we are using mostly our own stack. And I mean, as far as the actual contract security, that's the purpose of the audit. Is we're going to put the contracts through as much of a ringer as we can prior to releasing them with real money. and we'll be having bug bounties and so forth.
Okay, so we'll maybe do two more questions. Let me get that first question again. Okay, does the reputation system prevent a single user from creating a lot of different nodes as far as like running scams and then
Oh, so it does. So reputation is actually
You don't get additional reputation by having additional nodes. You don't, if you just create an empty account, that account does not accrue reputation just by existing. And so there is no benefit to the user from, say, splitting their account, having 10,000 accounts. You would have to buy the reputation tokens initially, and then you could disperse those into your accounts, but there's not an advantage to you for doing that. You don't get additional clout in the reporting process, and reputation tokens have nothing to do with the actual betting that's done in cash or ether or cash equivalent.
So can the network be susceptible to any type of spamming?
Spamming. I mean, so in terms of like the basic networking backbone, I mean, we're using we're sort of piggybacking on Ethereum's blockchain. So we don't have. I guess what kind of I'm not sure what kind of spam would be like specific to Augur. I mean, I guess one kind of spam that there could be is people could create sort of garbage markets. And actually, if you go to like the the development app right now, there's tons of garbage markets on. I have just to stress test the system. I have like a script that just it creates garbage markets 24/7, just because we're like how fast will this load if there's 100,000 markets on here? And they're just like so they're like mad libs markets. And but the thing that prevents people from doing that on the real system is just that creating markets isn't free. There's basically when you create a market, part of the justification for giving the market creator part of the trading fees that pass through it is that they generally provide a certain amount of initial liquidity, and they also pay like an upfront fee that goes to cover the different transactions that are involved in sort of closing out the market. So there's like there's a close market transaction. There's and then there's the various transactions that are involved in in the consensus process, and all of those are actually prepaid by the market creator. So it's not. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it's not like a huge amount of money, but it is enough to discourage spam.
I think we hit the top of our questions, but I wanted to say, man, we really appreciate all you guys are doing in the space. I'm very excited to see this get released. What can we do to help push the movement, or make sure that we get it open, the final project released before the presidential elections?
Well, any of you who are inclined, it'd be we're always looking for help with testing. We've been sort of rebuilding parts of our user interface, and we're going to be releasing the rebuilt version at the end of the month, and so there'll be a sort of testing every aspect of that. And the most basic version of testing is just like come to, like, if you go to our Slack, we have an open slack.augur.net, and you just play around with it, and by playing around with it and reporting any bugs, that's actually extremely useful.
One more question: when you guys do release it, does Augur have a coin? Will there be a coin release, and if so, what exchanges will it be on?
So the coin associated with Augur is actually the reputation token. Which is not, again, that's not used to trade. You don't need reputation to trade or to make markets. That's only for the reporting process. But we had a token sale last September, and I'm actually not sure what the status is as far as if it's going to be put, if exchanges will carry it. I think they will. we we ended up the sale ended up doing $5.3 million. So there's some interest, and so I think exchanges will be interested in using that, but I haven't talked to them personally, so I'm not sure.
Well, listen, again, like I said, we appreciate all you do. Thanks a bunch for taking time out, and I guess I'll close. Andrew, are you still on the line? If you are, do you have any questions?
Nope, sounds interesting. But...
Okay, guys, man, I really appreciate you coming in. Guys, let's give them a big round of applause.